In a single recent quarter, one chipmaker booked around $58 billion in profit. Riding that exact same AI boom, another company is on track to lose around $14 billion in a year. Same boom. Same technology. One is printing money, the other is burning it. So when people ask, is AI a bubble, they're asking the wrong question. Follow the actual dollars, and the boom splits in two. Almost everyone argues about AI as if it all rises or falls together. One giant yes or no bet, riding on a handful of giant companies. But follow the cash, and it flows to two very different kinds of company. The ones selling the tools, the chips, and the data centers. And the ones using those tools to build the AI you actually talk to. One of those groups is getting rich right now. The other is betting billions it soon will. Which is which, and who's left exposed if it cracks is the whole story. Picture a gold rush. Thousands of diggers race for the hills. A few strike it rich, most find nothing. But one person gets paid no matter who wins, the one selling the shovels. Every dollar in AI splits the exact same way, the shovel sellers and the gold diggers. Hold that picture, it's the whole video. The shovel sellers build what everyone else needs, the chips, and the data centers full of them. At the center sits one company, Nvidia. It makes the chips almost every AI runs on. For every dollar of chips it sells, only about 25 cents goes into making it. The rest, roughly 75 cents on the dollar, is gross margin, one of the fattest in all of business. And after every other cost, it still kept about $58 billion in a single quarter. That's not a bubble number, which raises the obvious question, who is paying Nvidia this much? The answer: the richest companies in the world, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, Meta, all racing to build data centers, the giant warehouses of chips that run AI. Building them has a name, the build-out, or CapEx, money sunk into physical kit that lasts only a few years. Together, those four are now pouring on the order of $700 billion a year into it. And rising fast, more than most countries on Earth produce in a whole year, poured into concrete and chips that will need replacing within a few years. Most of it comes straight out of their own profits, but a growing slice is borrowed, and how it's paid for turns out to matter. So far, so bullish. Real chips, real profit, real spending. But here's the catch. Someone has to actually make money from all these shovels. And that's where the story gets strange. Meet the gold diggers. The gold diggers are the AI labs, OpenAI, Anthropic, and the rest. The ones building the models you actually talk to. Take the one you've probably used most, OpenAI. Its sales have gone from near zero to a run rate of about $25 billion a year. A run rate is just its recent sales pace, stretched out to a full year. Explosive growth, which is exactly what makes the next number so strange. Because in that same stretch, OpenAI is on track to lose around $14 billion in a single year. Growing fast and bleeding money at the very same time. How? Building and running these models costs far more than the sales bring in. Most of it is upfront, training ever bigger models and renting mountains of computing power. On top of that, it charges you less for each answer than that answer costs to produce, to win the race. So the loss isn't the product failing, it's a deliberate bet. Spend now and hope the gold is still coming. Now watch what happens to the money at this gold rush. It moves in a circle. Nvidia puts billions of its own money into the very labs that then turn around and spend it buying Nvidia chips. It buys a stake, a slice of ownership. Those labs, in turn, commit to deals worth up to hundreds of billions to rent computing from the data center owners. Also shovel sellers that Nvidia has also put money into. Some of that spending only starting years from now. So Nvidia's cash flows out, comes back as chip sales and flows out again. While the money keeps looping, the circle looks like a booming economy. But if one link breaks, that's exactly how a boom cascades. So which side wins? It comes down to one number the loudest voices never say out loud. Those shovel sellers are pouring 700 billion a year into the build-out. What comes back out, what customers actually pay for finished AI, is far less. And Bain estimates that to justify all this spending, AI's income has to roughly quadruple by 2030. From something like 500 billion a year today, up to around 2 trillion. 500 billion now, 2 trillion needed. That gap is the heart of the whole debate. But it isn't the whole test. But hang on, isn't this just the dot-com bubble all over again? In one crucial way, no. Back in 2000, the darlings had almost no profit, they ran on hope. Today's leaders are ferociously profitable, and mostly spending their own cash. That's a real difference, but two echoes should keep you honest. Back then, companies also propped each other up with financing. The same kind of circle we just saw, and when it snapped fast. And the whole market still leans on just a handful of names. So here's your full scorecard, 4 dials, the gap plus 3 more. Dial 1, the gap itself. Is AI's income actually catching up toward that 2 trillion? Dial 2, the money. Is the build-out paid for by real profits, or more and more by debt and those circular deals? Dial 3, the chips they wear out in 2 or 3 years. But if a company books them on its accounts as lasting 6, each year's profit looks fatter than it really is. So watch whether the hardware is valued honestly. Dial 4, the spread. Is the boom broad or just that handful of giants holding up the whole market? Watch those 4 dials, and you're not guessing anymore, you're reading the machine. So back to where we started. Nvidia's $58 billion quarter and OpenAI's $14 billion a year loss were never a contradiction. They're the two halves of one machine. The shovel sellers getting rich on the build-out, and the gold diggers betting the gold arrives before the money runs out. Whether it's a bubble isn't a feeling. It's that 4-number scorecard, and now it's yours to read. Next, we crack open the biggest shovel seller itself, how Nvidia actually makes money. After that, you choose. Tell us in the comments which company's money machine we should take apart next, and it might be the one we build.